Hi, it's Eric Montgomery. I'm in here, Ottery St. Mary, and I believe it's May 21st, 2019. And I happened to run into a fellow by the name of Peter Harris, who was a young child during the Second World War. And he shared with me a very interesting story about a glider recovery operation nearby the town. So, Peter, thank you for taking a minute here to tell that story. I know my friends will be very interested.
Yeah, well, I think I was about 9, 10 years old, and I went to the local school, and it was during the summer holidays because there was ripe corn in the fields, and there was an American glider that somehow had unhooked from its tow rope and came down in the middle of Mr. Gibbons's cornfield, which he wasn't very happy about, obviously, because it knocked a lot of the corn about. Being young lads, we decided we'd go up and have a look. So there was about 3 of us, if I remember rightly, went up to the cornfield, and there was this big hawser glider in the middle of it, with a lot of Americans. The crew were there, and we went over and were speaking to them, and they said, well, we've got to get it taken off again, and if you want to stand up on the hedge, you can watch it, but you mustn't get off the hedge because of the Dakota's going to come in, which it did, very, very low, and it threw out the big ball of tow rope, plus a lot of bits of, from what I can remember, I don't know whether it was wood or whether it was metal poles. They made what looked like a goalpost, and they hooked the rope onto the nose of the glider, and then the other piece they hung with a big hook on it on top of the goalpost, and eventually the Dakota came in over the fields very, very low. The crew jumped back in the glider, obviously, and it just came in very low, hooked it up, and away it went. The goalpost collapsed, and off went the glider. But 2 weeks afterwards, we exactly the same thing happened. I always thought that it was a bit of a put-up job, but obviously it wasn't. It seemed incredible that another glider would come down in almost the same field, and exactly the same thing happened.
Now, when the first glider landed, you went up there and talked to the guys, and they were thirsty.
Oh yeah, they were very. Yeah,
that's right.
They were thirsty. So they said, "Is there anywhere we can get a drink?" And I said, "Yeah, my dad's got a baker's shop in Ottery." So they said, "Well, jump in the Jeep, we'll take you in." So the 3 of us got in the Jeep and drove into Ottery, which was only about 1.5 miles. Got some bottles of Corona, took us back up the field again to the glider. All this was going on when they were waiting for the Dakota to come in to drop all the stuff and pick them up, Okay. So one came in and threw it all out, and then whether it would have been the same Dakota or not, I don't know. I remember seeing there was a great big hook in underneath the Dakota. As she came in, there was this hook. It was quite interesting as a child to see it done. So we were very lucky.
Was that your first ride and only ride in a Jeep?
Yes, I think that was about the only ride in a Jeep. The next time I rode in a Jeep was when I was doing my national service in Egypt, and I had a Jeep.
How about that?
And I tipped it over.
What did you think about there's a lot of talk about, here comes the Yanks, oversexed, overpaid, and over here. What did you think about those boys that you met that day?
Oh, I think the crew from the glider were lovely. I mean, the second one that came in, and they did the same again, came in and got drinks in my dad's shop. And they were quite happy for me and my couple of friends to get on the glider, and they said they would have taken us back to Exeter Airport. But my mum said, no way, you're not going to do that. And they wouldn't let me go on the glider. But I do remember going in the glider. He let us go in and have a look round. And I remember seeing all the little windows and very small panes of perspex, I suppose it would have been. As a child, you don't know. And I remember sat in where the pilot would have been sat. And on the right-hand side, there was like a little gully, a little small gully running down through, and sat in there was this, what looked to me to be a huge great orange. And he must have seen us lads looking at it, and of course we couldn't get anything like that in the war. And this American said, would you like it? So we said, oh yes please. So they gave us this orange, which we split up between the three of us. But it was quite an experience, and I have seen the D-Day landings and such like in with the Horser gliders in Amsterdam and stuff like that. And I said to my wife several times, I can't believe that I've actually sat in one of those, because they were quite
big on
quite
the inside.
big.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. I wonder where the Jeep. I wonder if the Jeep was actually inside the glider. I wonder where that came from. Or did
I don't know.
Or did they drive that over here from?
No, the Jeep wasn't inside of it then. And I can't remember if there was anything in it, to be quite honest. All I remember is going in and sitting up the front of it where the pilot would have been, you know. The rest of it, I really can't remember. But I do remember the front, I suspect, because of the orange.
How about that? Things that you remember as a kid. I bet you never forget those fellows' faces.
No. We used to get a lot of Americans in Ottery because of Dunkeswell and Smithharp. In fact, there was the pub next door to where my father's shop was to volunteer. Dad used to nip in and get 2 or 3 bottles when the brewery arrived. He'd nip in and get a stock of his own, because he said if the Yanks come down there won't be anything left. they used to clear it out, you know. But there used to be, you know, Ottery racing around in jeeps all the time. I remember as a child seeing a lot of Americans, and one of the Americans, it was my father told me, that was in the pub. He was waiting to go over to France, and he said he hoped that everything would go all right, he would get back okay. He had a couple of children. He asked my father if he had any children, and Dad said yes. He had me. I was born in 1935, and he gave my father a $50. I think it's a $50. It might be $1, but I think it's a $50. 1935, $50, silver dollar. And I've got it at home now and part with it for the world. And he gave it to me dad for me, and I've still got it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. If I'd known you were going to be here, I'd have brought it up and shown you.
I would love to have seen it. Well, if you have a computer, we could maybe swap some pictures.
I haven't got a computer.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh, well, we'll figure something out. But thank you, Peter, for your story. I appreciate that. And
That's
I know
okay.
my friends will love to hear this, because, as I mentioned to you downstairs, one of the men I helped with the Legion of Honor, he was a glider recovery man. And Andrew Pakuda is his name, and unfortunately he just passed, but I know his family will love this story. So maybe it was Andy that was part of it. You never know. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you, Peter.
Oh, you're welcome.